I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
So today I am going to be looking at something called, what's it called? Teachers, how do you know a child is a sociopath? Yes, y'all are about to be entertained. Hello, welcome to my life. It's a shit show, but welcome. You've decided to join the fricking... Should I say cult? You've decided to join the fricking shit show. So, you're welcome. So without making you cunts wait any longer, I'm gonna get right into it.
Teachers, what are your stories of, oh God, this child is a sociopath? Story 1. Not a teacher, but I only remember the story because I had witnessed the fallout. In 11th grade, there was a girl, let's call her Carol, who was crazy about the cartoon Sonic the Hedgehog.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
That sounds a bit familiar. Just a tiny bit.
To the point where a teacher threatened to fail her on a writing assignment if she turned in yet another Sonic fanfiction. Instead of actually doing work properly, she handed in an angry letter to the teacher as her assignment. Can't remember what the specifics of that letter were, but I do remember it was such that she got suspended for the remainder of the year. When she came back in grade 12, she had to apologize to everyone in her homeroom for her actions the previous year. It's in this apology that she tells us she had a brain tumor the size of Quebec. The kid from Quebec naturally yells at her for comparing Quebec to a brain tumor. Carol did a lot of other stuff besides the angry letter that year. She mentioned in her apology that she got a girl in trouble for vandalism so she, Carol, could get the lead role in a school play. She dressed up as a Grim Reaper for some old person's funeral and accused my friend, whom she never had any prior connection to, of tricking her into thinking the funeral was a Halloween party. Since this happened in May, the excuse was made of toothpicks.
Okay, not gonna lie, I thought this was gonna give me some, freaking people being like, oh yeah, she ate at lunchtime. She is a sociopath. I thought that's what I was gonna be getting. But damn, that's actually sociopathic, what the fuck?
She got a 0 on a term paper for math because she accidentally submitted a poorly written and creepy Sonic fan fiction instead of her assignment. She threw a temper tantrum to get the teacher to change the due date. Nothing came of it. And that's just the stuff she admitted to. The kid from Quebec naturally yells at her for comparing Quebec to a brain tumor. I bet the kid did it in French, too. Comment osez-vous comparer la prune d'ayot du Canada ou un tumeur? Votre mère était un hamster et votre père sentait l'air sourd.
Give me 2 seconds as I freaking understand. What does... This is your sign that the internet is a shit show, but you must use it to the best of your ability, such as learning French. Your mother was a hamster! Okay. I have no idea. Google translates being shit. But at least I was entertained. Am I right, my dudes?
Sorry for my terrible French pronunciation.
It's okay. It's okay. We're all learning.
Story 2. I taught a 4-year-old boy who actually scared me.
Yeah. 4-year-old kids, they're either the sweetest things you ever meet or the most notoriously dangerous known criminals that will become of the future. There is no in between. There is no in between. It's one or the other. They're about to be a serial killer, or we've got the sweet kind.
Because I fear what his future will be.
I called it.
I can see him ending up doing some awful things to people. He would try and kiss and hug girls, and when they didn't want to, he'd hold them tightly and try to anyway, even if they loudly protested. I explained that there is no kissing in school, and if someone doesn't want to hug, they absolutely do not have to. I also said that some people don't like hugging. He said, well, I want her to, so she will. He just couldn't understand boundaries of any kind.
Okay, yep, that's starting to scare me.
This is just one tiny example of the things he did. I did refer him as I believe he has autism and he's undergoing assessment now and awaiting a diagnosis.
Same!
But I worry there's something else there with him. He would also watch other children to see how he should act. For example, a child might be sad and another child comforts them. He would copy this behavior but totally exaggerate it, like completely over the top, and use it as an excuse to touch others, mainly girls. He never showed any emotion other than anger and jealousy. He had a very scary look in his eyes, and I've never met another child like him. I worked in a daycare and had a child like that. It was only after he, 5-year-old, took his dong out and laid it on the table that one of the workers called CPS, suspecting that he was being physically abused at home. It was only after someone mentioned it that some of his past behavior started clicking. It really breaks my heart to hear about kids like that, especially when it stems from abuse at home. That's just the worst kind of thing to hear about, and I hope they're able to get help.
I completely agree. Like, no child should be abused. No child should be abused. They should be safe in their home. And honestly, abuse from home, it fucks their life up for the rest of their life. And honestly, the therapy and all that they have to go to just to heal from shit that wasn't even their fault, not fun.
Story 3. I teach dance and had a 6-year-old I'll never forget.
It's a 6-year-old girl. I'm calling it. It's a 6-year-old girl. Let's see what the fuck she does.
For the record, all 6-year-olds are terrible. Developmentally, they're all starting to flex their egos, and it can be a mess of personalities. But here's a collection of things that occurred that made me realize this child was a sociopath. I'll call them A. Had a child fall asleep in the middle of class. Poor thing didn't get a nap that day and just flat out passed out in the middle of dancing. I picked her up and placed her on the side, and she slept through class. Next week, A spends the whole class pretending to fall asleep. The fact that they had remembered the previous week and knew to emulate the behavior is very odd for that age. Fake cries on a dime anytime I tried getting her to follow along with class. Absolute crocodile tears.
My little sister did that. On command, it would just... And then you're in trouble. That bitch would get you in trouble. And you're dead. You're dead. No one's ever seeing you again.
Dry face. Isn't allowed to be the line leader because they were last week? Fake tears. Isn't allowed to guess the Disney song because another student already guessed it? Fake tears. Anytime they didn't get to be the special kid? Fake tears. Had them sit out once due to not following instructions after giving a clear if you do X one more time you will sit out and then follow through. Proceeds to start whining like a goddamn dog because she claims a student kept staring at them. Complete disruption. Turns out some of my students is autistic, and the fake crying and whining A was doing for attention was overstimulating them. It was a freaking feedback circle of these two triggering each other for a whole year. What really got me, though, was A came up to me and said they had a rash and needed to sit out. This is after they spent 10 minutes sucking their arm to make it appear they had a rash. Told grandparents after class, and they just, yeah, they've been doing that. What? How does a 6-year-old have the wherewithal to plan out faking a rash like that? At the end of the year, the mom gave me a gift card and a note that basically said, "Thank you for putting up with my child."
The mom knew. She was like... she was like, peace offering. Peace offering, my dude.
Story 4. I currently have a student in my special ed academic support class who is just so manipulative. My colleague and I mostly joked how he's probably drowned a cat just to watch it die or something, just as serial killer-esque.
Because that's something normal to joke about.
He's habitually truant, so most of the time he's not a problem, but he really knows how to manipulate everyone around him. He's not smart enough to manipulate adults effectively yet, but he can get the other students going. He instigates things with students who are much less intelligent than he is and plays the victim. He gets away with it because the other students aren't cognitively able to give their side of the story. He lies constantly about banal things. Like he went around saying that a knockoff LV bag that he got at a charity shop was worth $3,000 and threw a fit when I wouldn't let him take it to the bathroom with him and accused me of wanting to steal it. The next day he admitted he knew it was fake. The one day that he'd been here in the last month, he accused one of my students of buying drugs. It turns out that the cognitively disabled boy that the little sociopath manipulates did, in fact, steal marijuana from his mother and put it into this girl's bag in the morning. She found it there and didn't know what to do with it, so she left it. This little bastard came up to me and told me about this nefarious drug deal that happened in the morning, and this girl had her things searched and ended up suspended, and her parents grounded her for 6 months. She's miserable coming into school every day. He hasn't been back to see the damage, but I'm sure that he'll be excited when he sees that he's spreading misery. I am so happy every day his name appears on the absence list. This child will appear out of nowhere, drop a bomb on the classroom, and then disappear for weeks. It's almost insidious. Yeah, while I really want to sympathize with kids who are troubled because it can often stem from problems at home, there also needs to be accountability. I still feel bad for them, but my sympathy doesn't erase responsibility.
No, I completely agree with that, honestly, because, like, I've had trauma from a lot of things, and I had a lot of trauma as a child, and it just makes me think, like, yeah, some of it was my fault, some of it wasn't my fault, and, yeah, be sympathetic, but don't erase the responsibility at the same time.
Story 5. Not a teacher, sorry, but when I was younger, maybe 8, I remember going to some family gathering way out in the country. There were tons of distant relatives there. Great-grandparents had 11 kids, and therefore lots of cousins I didn't know. One girl, probably 4 or 5, was scared. All of us kids would try to play with her, and she would just act strange. But one thing I really remember was someone was showing us some baby chicks, letting us hold them and pet them. My mother had just explained to us, be very gentle, they're babies, etc., etc. Well, this little girl is holding a baby chick on her palm, looks right into my mom's eyes, and just squeezes this chick until its eyes bulge.
What the fuck?
They stopped her, and to my knowledge, the chick was fine, but I'll never forget the look in her eyes. Immediately after this happened, her dad scooped her up in his arms, and she just looked back at all of us, smiling maniacally.
As one does. As one does.
Story 6. I have an ex who was a preschool teacher, and he affectionately calls his students my little sociopaths, not to their faces or parents. Because that age is just empathy, is a learned skill, let's put it that way. I had honestly never thought about it, but he taught me that things like hitting is bad because it hurts people and hurting people is not a good thing is something that kids have to be taught, and it's much harder to get them to understand it when they're older than like 4 or 5. I think he said 3 is really when they start to get it, but often parents are still treating 3-year-olds like babies. My mom was a teacher for several decades, and she taught some real winners too. There's a kid a few years younger than me that she had, and she never explicitly said anything bad about him because he was the son of one of her friends and lives in their neighborhood. But that kid was straight from a frickin' horror movie. He's adopted, and one of the first things he did after his parents brought him home was to shut the family dog in the refrigerator. One time he sneaked up to my parents' house in the middle of the night. We live in the middle of nowhere, so this is terrifying in and of itself. And tried to break into our house. My parents usually left the doors unlocked at night, and I would go around after they went to bed and lock them. When that didn't work, he cut the electrical wiring to our outside lights so it was pitch black outside and we couldn't see anything, and then slashed the tires of my car and tried to break the windows. He used to just beat the crap out of other kids, especially younger ones, whenever the mood struck him. That sucker is like 30 now, and he's still a total piece of crap. Like, he still lives with his mom, and he's gotten her house swatted at least 5 times because he deliberately goes online into spaces where that's a thing and antagonizes people. Then takes off to leave her to deal with the fallout. I'm hoping to be an adoptive parent myself one day, and sometimes I have nightmares about this kid because as far as I know, his parents really did try super hard to help, but it just never worked.
There's a reason that it didn't work. Some people need the help. I mean, all people need help. But some people literally won't accept the help. And that's something you need to understand in yourself, that you won't be able to help them. And there are some people who don't think they need help, but they do. And then it's getting them to see that they need help. That's the issue.
Story 7. Had a 6-year-old the size of a 9-year-old pin a 4-year-old to a wall and at least looked like he was trying to feel her up. I walked up behind him and shouted, "What the heck do you think you are doing?" And he immediately backed off and started stuttering, trying to explain himself. He would say some fricked up crap too. One time he walked up to me, a 6-foot-tall bearded man, and said basically, "Hey mama, let me suck on them titties." Hated that kid. If you told him to do anything, he would intentionally do something to go against what he was told. His parents spoiled him rotten and let him do whatever he wanted. He got away with anything because a former teacher had inadvertently injured him, and his family, who are filthy rich, threatened to sue the dog crap out of the school. He basically had immunity from discipline at school and parents that let him do whatever he wanted. He hated me because I wouldn't put up with his crap. I never hurt him, but I would put him in a hold so that he couldn't move fairly often, because he would constantly sucker punch other smaller kids for just about any reason at all, even if he just wanted the toy they were holding. Kid was a little sociopath with parents that were rich enough that they enabled the behavior. So the school put their money ahead of the safety of the children. Story 8. This one happened just the other day, and obviously I'm going to be anonymous about it to protect the children's identity. Let's call her Abby. So I'm driving a minibus of students home from a basketball practice when suddenly Abby starts screaming, "Did that have peanuts in it? I'm allergic to peanuts." She begins hyperventilating and crying and actually makes me pull over so she can get off the bus and throw up. We're about 15 minutes from the school and I'm literally having a panic attack, so I called the principal and asked what I should do. Do we have an EpiPen on hand at the school, etc.? She seems confused and puts Abby's grandmother on, who tells me she wasn't aware her granddaughter, who is claiming she can barely breathe, had any allergies. When we got back to the school, I was about ready to faint, and the principal brought out her registration paperwork to show me no listed allergies. She isn't allergic to anything. It was all an act. The hyperventilating, the crying, even the throwing up was all for attention. Story 9. I taught a 15-year-old boy who was really creepy. He'd submitted a creative writing story that was debauchery fiction in which he graphically described how a white blonde woman was being violated to corrupt the purity she feigns, which was quite scary as a white blonde woman to read. When confronted by a vice principal, he started ranting about how he hated all the girls in the class because they were all Bs, even though none listed had ever had any interaction with him, positive or negative. He then wrote me an apology letter where heaps of the line were aggressively crossed out with smiley faces drawn next to them. At the last confrontation by vice principal, he got really aggressive, walked out, and punched the school fence several times. Unfortunately, he wasn't expelled. The incels are getting younger and younger. I don't know what this kid was being taught at home or online, but it sounds like he really needs some help. Honestly, that's some scary behavior, and at 15 could develop into something violent if he doesn't get some counseling or something. Story 10. I've seen students display all sorts of extreme behavior over the past 20 years teaching in challenging schools. The one kid that I was convinced was a psychopath just quietly refused to do anything he didn't want to do. I never saw him angry, and yet I did see him hit people and say awful things to them. He was always eerily calm. He was tiny and very cute, but he used to manipulate people and watch chaos unfold with these huge, unblinking puppy dog eyes. It was like he was carrying out an experiment. Anyway, that was when he was about 14. He's 19 now and serving a life sentence for a horrific gang murder.
I don't even know what to say to that. That went from 1 to 10 real quick.
Last line caught me off guard, but I should have seen something like that coming. Story 11. So I'm not entirely sure if this is a sociopath or psychopath, but I had a child that was creepily into my pregnancy for the first 7 months. He wanted to name her, talked to my belly, etc. Then one day it clicked that I would leave, and he got really close to me and whispered, "When you come out, I'm going to kill you with the hammer. I hate you." I was so shocked I took him with me to the office. The LSSP asked why he said that. He replied, "I will take her away. I want it to die so she stays here." He was on a lot of medication for his incredibly violent tendencies. He had tried to kill his sister before by pushing her in front of a bus. His mother kept him locked in his room at night because she found him standing over her with a knife. What the frick?
Yep. That's enough of that. That is enough of that. That was traumatizing to say the least. Why did I ever do that? Who the fuck knows? But yes, I hope you all enjoyed. That was the shit show of today. And if any of you fuckers enjoyed the video, and enjoyed my reactions, and enjoyed me, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you.